especially when it comes to training and stuff like that. I can just go.
Episode number 18 of British Strength Radio with Shane Jerman. Is it pronounced German?
It's pronounced Jerman, but I just take whatever I get, to be honest.
Jerman.
Jermaine, okay. German, they all work.
This is the first time we've met as well, so you can forgive me for not knowing how it's pronounced. Yeah. If you would like to support the generation of future episodes of this podcast, head over to BritishStrengthMagazine.com and subscribe to British Strength Magazine. We have the brightest minds in the British strength sports industry writing for the magazine, and we have interviews with the UK's strongest athletes. So, Shane, how are you doing today?
Yeah, good. Like I said to you before, I've just been doing my bit for the community, so just run straight here. So I've not had time to prep anything. I don't really have an idea what we're going to talk about. I don't know whether you want to know about athlete Shane or coach Shane. Or
I want to know about what you've been doing for the community, if you don't mind.
Well, I was a naughty boy a couple of years ago, and I just got my community service, so I have to help a charity shop out once or twice a week. I've actually finished it now, to be honest with you. I just stayed on because I don't know. I got into a routine of going, and I like the people, and I feel like they need a bit of help because they're just old people that are useless. They can't do certain stuff. So I'm like the guy who comes in and they're like, "Oh, can you chuck this fridge out and carry this box over here?" You know, the typical powerlifter, please lift this thing you enjoy lifting is my role there.
So you really stay there out of choice? You don't have any more hours to
No,
do?
I literally 2 weeks ago I did my hours, so I just kind of, I don't know. I can't really explain why. I just felt like tight leaving because it wasn't really like I was on community service. They didn't treat me like that. I came in and I was just another volunteer who helped, and I realised that they struggled doing a lot of stuff without a younger person. Because like I said, they're all older people that just help out a couple of hours a week.
That's very commendable, to be fair.
Maybe, I don't know.
Do you mind me asking what you did to be a naughty boy?
No, it's fine. Basically, there's actually, I like talking about it because, let me drink this drink. If I didn't do what I did, I wouldn't really be here now as a coach. So it kind of made my life, because like Hicksy was saying before, how he doesn't have the balls to take that jump as to be full time.
Yep.
I was a part-time online coach, part-time PT for pretty much since I was 18, but always had another job on the side. And I worked at AXA Insurance. I got to know these solicitor type people. They were like claims advisors. Met them like around town and stuff. And they basically wanted me to get customer details for them that I had access to working for the insurance company. In exchange for money. So I basically gave them a name and a telephone number of someone who'd been in a car crash. So them annoying people that ring you and say, "Have you been involved in a car crash?"
Yep.
That's people like me. Apart from my data was legit. So I sold people's names and numbers that had been in car crashes. They rang them and basically got them to make a claim for their injuries. Basically got their business, because before what would happen is the insurance company would themselves settle the case, but give them usually less money because people don't know what they're entitled to. Whereas you get a private claims advisor, they'll know exactly what it's worth and they will get the person the money. So kind of in my mind, I wasn't really doing anything too wrong because I was helping these people get more money. I was getting money, but obviously it's illegal, and I got 180 hours community service. And I just got a 10 grand fine last week as well. So
you got a 10 grand fine?
Yeah. Wasn't the best news before Christmas. But
For what?
Same thing. It's just this has been 6 years ago. I did this.
Right.
It literally, they actually told me they closed the case after 2 years. So I was like, okay, great. And then a year later they reopened it, and then a year later I got my sentence, and then another year later I've just got my proceeds of crime fine, which was literally last week. Now it's all done and dusted. So I've done my hours and I've done my, well, not paid it yet, but I'm going to pay my fine, and then I'm finally got that part of my life done.
Yeah, like you say though, going back to you being a coach and whatnot and fully pursuing this, it's kind of a blessing in disguise, wasn't it? Because
I really do look at it like that, because
it sounds like one hell of a fucking boring job, to be honest.
Oh, it was crap. But the thing is, I would never. It was like Hick said, it was decent money for around here. I was on like 25k or something, which around here, unless you're at the power station, it's hard to earn money. And it's a secure multi-billion pound industry that's never going to go bust, you know what I mean? And there was route for progression, but it's just that boring 9 to 5 office life. I was always coaching on the side, but I would never have left because I was sucked into this view by listening to other coaches of there's not much money in coaching, not much money in coaching, and you kind of like go, oh, okay, well if this guy can't make money, then maybe I shouldn't pursue it. But when I was forced to, because I got sacked, plus it's very hard to get a job when you're on bail, and I was on bail for nearly 3 years because they weren't doing anything with the case. So no one's going to hire you because they're thinking, well, this guy could go to prison at any point, potentially. And I knew I wasn't, but they don't know that. They don't know the ins and outs of it. So basically, my only choice was to go self-employed. So I just pushed the coaching. I lent some money off my mum and opened a gym. That's how I got started. And then, we've just kind of gone from there, grown every year, and I'm here now. So, yeah.
Yeah. I had a similar situation recently. Nothing to do with doing anything illegal. I recently, I've written about this in my latest editorial actually, I recently started a job, Manchester Airport. The training period was 3 weeks. It is actually quite hard to pass the exam because it's to do with X-ray recognition and stuff, and whether you just notice little things and can notice fucking IEDs or whatever. Anyway, I didn't, so I'd literally just moved back down here, and I was out of a job almost instantly. So what that's done is it basically forced me to do the same, go self-employed. But it does make you, maybe use the mic.
Sorry.
It does make you, it lights a fucking fire under your ass. If you think that you can't pay the bills, it's like, right, you know what I mean?
I don't know what it's like for you, but for me, when it happened, I was just shocked. Like it was actually quite easy for me because I'm good at my job, and I'd done it for a long time before going full time. So it wasn't like I just got chucked into this thing. I already knew everything I needed to know. Well, more than I needed to know to be a successful PT. I mean, there are shit PTs out there that make loads of money because they're just good at selling. So the only thing I had to learn was how to become a businessman and just sell stuff. But I found that to be very easy because
you just put your own personality out there, right?
Yeah, but also it was like I'm so passionate about what I do and I enjoy it so much that I just sell it by accident. I just talk about what we're going to do, and I'm enthusiastic by nature, and I love lifting. I love training people, whether it's a 60-year-old woman or an 18-year-old boy that wants to get to World's Strongest Man or something. Mm-hmm. I'm like, great, this is brilliant. And whether, the woman gets the PB who's just training to have a healthy back and a nice lifestyle, or the World's Strongest Man guy, I don't care. It's great. I just love seeing people progress and get better. And then when you like that, I think people just come to you naturally, and you create like a group around you that follow you.
And you have like a lot of word of mouth too. And I think that's even more so than marketing, because I mean, I did like mainly personal training while I was bodybuilding for a long time before it became more online, became more coaching in powerlifting. And I would market and not get that many inquiries, despite thinking I was doing everything right. And it's only since like word of mouth has done way more for me than marketing has, and I don't market now, and I still get inquiries. So I don't know if it's the same for you.
Yeah, well, I don't advertise my services anywhere. When I'm talking about when I first started, I was like 90% gym, 10% online.
Yep.
And then what I found was, just because it's kind of a niche market, and around here, Lancaster Morecambe, it's just a small area, and it is difficult to build the business on powerlifting and strongman in this area that's just so small. And the traffic through Lancaster is a nightmare, so people don't like travelling from Lancaster to Morecambe. Even though technically it should be a 5-minute trip, it's like an hour trip. So you kind of get limited to Morecambe, which is kind of the poorer side of Lancaster. So that's why my business kind of started to transition to 90% online, 10% in person, because obviously online coaching, powerlifting, you can access everyone in the whole world, so it's a much bigger market for what we're doing. But even online, I've built a nice following on social media, and through the clients that I've got all over the world, word of mouth in those gyms. The amount of times people message me like, oh, you train this guy in my gym, and they're in like Australia or something, and I'm like, all right, okay. And then they just come on board. Word of mouth goes, especially in this sport, because these people go to comps, they compete, they do well, they go, oh, who's your coach? And then they say me, and then I get some followers, and then it's just constantly growing.
And they always, a lot of the time tag you in
Yeah.
all the videos and stuff.
Yeah, because they're proud to be
Yeah.
part of the team, and they're like,
Yeah.
tag you, and it works really well. It's good. I enjoy it.
Yeah. So going off on a massive tangent.
Yeah.
But Andy Smith has asked me to ask you about your passion for feet.
My passion for feet.
You need to use the mic again, mate.
I was drinking. My passion for feet. Well, I just think that people really underestimate the importance of a proper stable foot in lifting, and it's something that's very rarely addressed. Like the first thing people do on a squat, if somebody's like restricted by depth, if they're like traveling the knee forward and stuff like that, a bit different if they're like sitting their ass back and doing a very low bar vertical shin squat. But people will look at like ankle mobility is a big issue. You see people talk about it all the time. Whereas often ankle mobility can be just a restriction of placement of the foot and control of the arch. And much like in lifting, people would substitute an Olympic shoe to raise the heel to increase ankle mobility. People have started getting into buying arches now in the feet to control the medial arch of the foot. But what you should be doing on the side in both cases is not just eliminating the cause by wearing a raised heel. You should be doing some ankle mobility work in the background.
Right.
To obviously, because technically we should be able to squat barefoot. You know, to depth. You know, if we can't.
There's no
do
reason
that,
why we shouldn't be able
exactly.
to.
And if you're not, you're just lazy. And same with foot control. Instead of just putting a wedge in to sort the issue, we need to be doing some work, you know, in the background, whether it be single leg balances, unilateral work, single leg Romanian deadlifts, whatever it is, getting control of the foot. Because when I watch, the first thing I watch on a lifter who has form breakdown is if the feet move first. Because oftentimes the arch collapses and then they'll get like, people call it knee valgus, but it could just be collapse of the arch of the foot.
Right.
So again, everything starts at the foot. Whether you're lifting anything, you have to apply force into the ground, force into the bar, and then your position in between is what obviously determines your motor pattern. But to put force into the ground has to be through the feet, always. So the foot is very important, and people just really overlook it, and they just don't pay much attention. They just will go, oh, so what? You know, your knees are valgusing. So when
we're saying that there needs to be ankle mobility done in the background, what type of things would you generally recommend to people?
What, for ankle mobility?
Yes.
Static stretching I would use as like a last resort, really. I'm more of a fan of slow eccentrics, isometric hold, stuff like that. So, for example, my go-to one would be like a front foot elevated dumbbell split squat,
right,
where you do a really slow eccentric, and the goal would be to maintain control of the arch of your foot whilst tracking the knee as far forward as possible and allowing
with
the time.
With a flat shoe, right?
Barefoot.
Or barefoot, yeah.
Yeah, I do most of my assistants barefoot.
Right.
Or in a shoe that is, I can't remember what they're called now. They have them like low profile shoes that like mimic barefoot walking, don't they?
Like Vibrams?
Yeah, like those. I mean, I'm not a fan of them fucking toe shoe things, but you know, if you can get a shoe that does that, then great. But barefoot is, I mean, one of the coaches that I've worked really closely with, Andrew Triana, loves people training barefoot in his gym because he likes to look, it's weird, but he likes to look at the bottom of the feet after the training session to see where the chalk and dust has collected over the foot,
right, because
it shouldn't be able to get into that arch, because you should be, you know, putting force through the floor through, you know, 3 points of contact of the foot. And if someone's coming away and the whole foot is covered in chalk, then it means that the foot is collapsing, and it's just a really good indicator of what's happening. It happens when people walk, people get knee pain, hip impingements due to walking and the foot collapsing and moving all the time. And it's just poor control, and a lot of it's down to footwear. You know, the shoes that we wear aren't the best for feet health. Walking patterns, people walking with external rotation all the time. You know, people build that motor pattern through powerlifting, I think. If they stand always externally rotated, then they're just like reinforcing and creating stability in this position, which isn't the best for, you know, a general motor pattern. So we need to have assistance work that, you know, this is our position to squat, but this is where I walk, this is where I do my lunges, this is where, you know, I am all the time aside from this movement, which is a big issue with powerlifting though, is powerlifters become a powerlifter. They're not an athlete, they're good at three things.
They box themselves into a very small kind of little pigeonhole type
thing.
Exactly.
They don't venture outside of the three main lifts very often, don't venture outside sagittal plane. And they just basically, like I said, box themselves in, and they can create all these issues which take a long time to undo. Whereas if you just start properly, gain all these things, then you won't need to ever go back and correct them.
Okay, so we've had a nice little inroad there to your knowledge, and I think anyone who doesn't know you, who's listened to this podcast, now has a good idea that you know your stuff.
Right. Maybe.
What's your background in this? Because I know that you didn't just start in powerlifting. I know that you've done strongman before, but like, in terms of like, what's your background before that?
Well, basically, how I got started was joined the gym when I was 16 because I was a chubby little kid, wanted to lose some weight, and I was just that young kid that was in the gym for like 4 or 5 hours, watching all the big guys they're just the guys that look the same now as they did 10 years ago. But whatever they did, I was like, right, this fucking guy's doing this, let's do that. And I was there for hours and hours and hours. And I'll be honest with you, I was at a point where I probably would have just quit because I wasn't getting anywhere, because I obviously didn't have a clue what I was doing. And a guy called Ben France, I don't know if you know of Ben, he's come second at, I think it's World Strongest Masters, he comes second at, or UK Masters. He's been in the strength scene and bodybuilding scene for a decade. He's a vegetarian. He's a really qualified nutritionist coach, and he was the manager of Saltaire Sports Centre down the road at the time. And he basically seen me grafting and just basically give me a program and told me what food to eat. And he probably thought, he's going to, like everyone else at these commercial gyms, just not do it and never see me again. I did every single rep, every single set, rest time, food, everything for 8 weeks. Went, right, I've done it, what next? And that's pretty much how I got started. Ben taught me a lot. He taught me about different coaches, where to read, got me into Poliquin and a few other people. And then he actually got me a job at that gym when I was 17 or 18, one of the two. And all I did there is induct people in the gym for like 20 minutes, and then I'd be sat at a desk and there was just magazines like everywhere, Flex and all that stuff, and I was just reading, and obviously 90% of it's just crap, but I'm quite good at retaining information, so I'd read these things and I'd just read, and then I'd be on T-Nation and read, and then he just kept introducing me to more knowledge, and I just kept at home, I just read, and I've been that way since I was 18. Even now all I do is just read shit, basically. It's just, I don't know why, I'm just still as passionate about it now as I was back then, and that's kind of where I came from. In terms of sport, strongman we got into because Ben did it. I started about 6 months before Hicksy, and then we heard about Hicksy because he was just known as this guy that could dumbbell press the heaviest dumbbells in Total Fitness, and nobody else could. So we were like, oh, well, we'll invite him down if he's strong, and that's how I met Hicksy. He did super yoke the first day. I did this 300 super yoke in like 8 seconds over 20 meters, and we were just like, what the fuck? And then we just basically formed a little group, me, Ben, Hicksy, Paddy, they all still train in this gym now. And we would train every day together at Saltaire. We managed to kit the bottom room out downstairs with all strongman kit. Most of the kit you're seeing here is from Saltaire. The yokes, the stones, everything, we've had it for like 10 years. And that, we just built it up over time, and we used this room at Saltaire. And then we started competing, Hicksy in the 105s, me in the 90s. I did England's like 5 times. I come second 3 times. And I did the under 80s, went to the Arnold, went to Australia at Strong Fit Worlds, it was called at the time. I did a lot through strongman. I really enjoyed it, but the structure of it annoys me in the lighter weight classes, so that's why I decided to quit.
Right, and what about it annoyed you?
Just in my opinion, I take this sport seriously. It's not a hobby. I put my life into this sport. Mm-hmm. So one of my final thing that like the straw that broke the camel's back, or whatever the fuck they're saying was basically I trained for this log world record under 80 for 6 months. So for me to get under 80 is hard as well. I was ripped, and I dieted the whole time. I was basically on a bodybuilding diet with a strongman training cycle, and I was hitting this world record for reps in training. I was 20 kilos above the world record, easy, on any day of the week. And then I turned up to the comp, and the first thing the guy did was he decided to make it like a 1 hour weigh-in instead of a 4 hour weigh-in. So I suddenly had like, on a moment's notice, 60 minutes to rehydrate. Mm-hmm. And it was like I said, it was a tough cut. So I was like, cramping and all this, and I was being sick. And this happens every time I dehydrate. That's why I don't do it very often. So I kind of knew that would happen for the first hour, but I knew after 3 or 4 I'd be okay. So I'm like 79.5 when we're lifting, because I'd lost 0.5 kilo from being sick, the water I was trying to drink.
Right.
And then he brings this log out, and it's not even the right spec log to qualify for a world record. So even if I'd have done 30 kilo over it, it's not the right log, the right equipment, so it doesn't count. It's got to be an IFSA spec 12-inch diameter log, and it was like an 8-inch fucking pipe, basically. So straight away I was like, what the fuck? And then he told me he had a deadlift bar for the deadlift record I was doing as well. And I'm looking around, and he had no deadlift bar. It's a stiff bar. Luckily, somebody had told me he definitely doesn't have a deadlift bar, so I brought my own.
Right.
And then I went out, put the deadlift bar on, and said, I fucking trained, told it was a deadlift bar the whole time. I've trained on this deadlift bar. If I was told it was a stiff bar, I'd train the stiff bar. I'm deadlift on this fucking deadlift bar. So he let me do it anyway. And I pulled the world record. It stood for like 6 years, but I didn't get the lift.
What was that?
It was 320, but that was actually my warm-up lift. I wanted 345. Again, I believe I would have pulled it, but I was just cramping. Like every deadlift, my lats were cramping. It was just a nightmare. Like 3 days later, I pulled that 340 something in the gym, just to like show myself I could. But I just thought, that's so unorganised. That was an England Strongest Man comp as well.
Wow.
Under 80, and I was like, it's so unorganised and so shit. Why am I putting my life into a sport that the organiser just doesn't give a fuck? So that's why I decided to just leave the sport, and I had 2 years out of just training, and then I did my first powerlifting comp about 2 years ago, and now I'm kind of fully invested in the powerlifting side of things.
And how old are you, just to give us a bit of...
I'm 29.
29,
now.
so...
30 in 2 months, so...
So relatively young.
Yeah.
Relatively young.
Well, my training age is quite long. Like I said, I've been training, like what people would classify as properly training strength. I've been training since I was 18, so I've got 11 years of proper strength training under my belt. It's not like I fannied around since I was 24. You know, I put my life into this for like 11 years, so...
Yeah, so you've also got a decent base built up as well from strongman, from all the strongman training.
Yeah, I mean, I get a bit of stick in powerlifting because I don't mind giving people shit and calling people out. But people forget that I've only actually done 2 powerlifting comps. And that's why people give me a bit of shit, because my training total's like 940, but on the platform I've done 860. But both times I've just made rookie mistakes both times that, you know, you learn from comp experience. And I made rookie mistakes both times. So I learned from the mistakes, and when I finally do get that good day, I will set the highest 90 kilo total of all time, no doubt in my mind. But, you know, obviously at the moment, people look at me and think, oh, he's been doing strength training all this long, he should have done the total by now. I'm like, well, I've only done 2 comps, so, you know, really it's fuck all, really. Most people sometimes it takes people 8 to 10 comps to get that perfect 9 for 9 day, doesn't it? Because it just doesn't always happen.
It doesn't happen, yeah, like you say, it doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah.
So you had a really good comp at the Northeast Qualifier 2018. I think I did that comp the day after. I was the day after you though, so I didn't see.
Yeah, no, I mean, you say it was okay. No, it was shit, is what it was. It's just that it looks okay from a numbers standpoint.
That's what I mean.
But it's not. It's not good, basically.
For you,
yeah.
For you, it's not good.
I was 50 kilo down on my squat, so it's like
50 kilos down.
Yeah.
Didn't you squat 325?
No, I squatted 320 and I wanted 370.
Right.
I'd done 360 in training. But what happened again, rookie mistake, what happened was I was squatting in Cerberus Ultras, the wraps. I went to Tom Martin the week before the comp, and he said, look, these Ultras are great for you because before you were basically I went from a 300 squat to a 360 in about 5 months because I'd never squatted low bar before. And I never even max squatted for strongman. I just did high bar pause squat. I had a 300 kilo high bar pause squat at like 91 kilo in training. So I went low bar, wraps, transitioned to a 360. But then the wraps just didn't feel right when I started lifting the 340 pluses and whatnot. So Tom was like, you need these Odins if you're going to squat heavier. Anyway, turns out I didn't have a chance to train in them. I just put them on the day and they just felt completely different and just weird. And also when I went
very stiff, aren't they? Very hard to get.
Well,
a lot
compared
of
to the
revs on.
ultras, yeah. And another mistake I made was I let someone rap me. My friend, he knows how to rap. It wasn't just like a random guy, but he just messed up because he rap rolled one rap, put it on perfect, and I think I had 350 on the bar, and I was like, fucking hell, I could just tell. I was like, this is great. And he got like halfway around on this leg, and then he let go of the wrap, and it just unraveled.
Yep.
And then he's like putting it on again, and he let it go again. And then the guy's calling me out like, you need to come out. And he put it on the third time and let it go the third time. And his forearms were just gone. So my other friend came in, and they were both putting this wrap on. And I was walking out to the platform, and I'm like walking with a straight leg on this leg and just walking on my other leg. I was like, this is not going to end very well. So as I was going down the eccentric, my hips like shifted to the side that had the more flexion in my ankle because of the loose knee wrap. And then I just ended up in this weird, fucked up position at the bottom. Really hurt my back. Well, it didn't hurt, it just seized. So I couldn't take another attempt. And also, every time I was arching on bench, it just felt rats. I felt my spine was fucking gone. So there's a physio there. I was in with him before my bench. Managed to bench and my back not seize again. Then it seized again. So I got physio for the deadlift. I managed to pull 2 deadlifts, which were actually, my deadlifts felt really good, but I ripped my hand open I have this problem in comps. I don't know what it is. I think it's because the bars I train on aren't as knurled, but I always tear my hand on in comp. I never tear it in training. So second lift, I pulled 320 and tore a big callus off. So again, I couldn't go for the 330, 335 that I wanted to because my hand was just bleeding everywhere. I knew there was no point.
What do you do for hand care?
I just kind of file them down and moisturise.
Oh, fair enough. That's what I've got. That's what I've been told to do. I thought we might be.
Yeah, but the thing is, I've never dropped a deadlift ever, and I've never dropped one because my callus goes. What happens is I put it down and then go, oh fuck,
and then the next attempt
I can't do the next one.
Yeah.
So it's not like it comes out my hand or anything. It just seems to happen. It's happened every comp I've done. Well, the 2 comps I've done. But yeah, I've actually done 3 comps, but I don't class the third one because I didn't even get to deadlift because my fucking leg blew off.
But you'd had a good few months of training leading up to that, hadn't you? Your training looked like it was on fire.
Yeah,
leading up to body power.
That was my day where I was convinced I was going to go 950, 970. Because I believe I can go 1,000 kilos around the 90 mark. Maybe not at 90 kilo. Because I'm not one of these people that is obsessed with weight classes. I don't really like cutting. I'm always trying to gain lean tissue and I'm always trying to bulk. So yeah, if the day comes I can't make 90, I'm not on the same line as Sam Bollins where he just thinks I won't cut. I'm good at cutting. I see cutting as another skill you got to have in the game.
Yeah.
I can cut 9 kilo and make weight and in 24 hours be 9 kilo again. I think it's part of the game. If nobody did it, then I wouldn't do it, but people do it, so I do it.
Yeah, if those are the rules, if it's a 24-hour weigh-in, then you would be mad if you do sit above the weight class to do it. Even with a 2-hour weigh-in, there's still something that can be done. Do you know what I mean?
I don't cut on 2-hour weigh-ins. That's just my thing. But
I'm not talking if you're a lot above. If
you're a little it's just the way I rehydrate.
Above.
Everyone's different. I told you I'm sick.
Yeah.
I know every time I dehydrate, I feel fine. I drink water, I'm sick for about an hour. I can't put anything in. So that's why I just don't do 2-hour weigh-in. Because even if I cut like 3 kilo, I just get the same. I don't know why. Every time it happens, the first thing that hits my stomach, sick. Never been able to solve it. So 24-hour weigh-in, I just accept the sick.
Okay.
And then I know I'm going to be okay in 5 hours, and then by the time 24 hours I'm completely fine. But 2-hour weigh-in, it just doesn't work for me for whatever reason. But yeah, basically that's my thing. Is I think I go close to 1,000 at the weight I walk around at, which is probably 98, which is why I compete in the 100 class a lot. And the 105 strongman, I used to dabble in that because I just don't like the cut to 90. Maybe once a year I'll do that, basically. But in training, I'd smoked a 355 squat that was so easy, bench 220 for 2, and deadlifted 330 for a top single. And one of those days where everything is just shit. And I pulled this 330, so I felt like I was going to be able to add at least 15 kilo to my squat and go 370, 380. 380 was my third attempt in my head, basically. And then the bench, I was hoping for 235. And then the deadlift, I was hoping to push towards the 340, 345 mark. But unracked to 360 squat, felt like nothing. Going down felt like nothing. Came up and... No, sorry, I was actually halfway down when my hamstring detached. Which is why I'm actually leaving the BPU, is because I blame the severity of that injury on the fact there's no safety chains. And I got absolutely mauled. I don't know if you've seen the video, but my head hits my shoe. because the bar just crushes me, and I had like a grade 2 tear in my adductor, my TFL, and my hamstring, and it's still not right now, 6 odd months down the line, and I really believe that's because the safety chains would have stopped me being absolutely mauled, so I'll never know what I could do on the day. I benched 220 on one leg after that injury.
Yeah, I remember that bench.
Yeah, I felt so strong. I was so pissed off. Honestly, everything felt amazing, and I peaked so well. I did everything so perfect, but I guess sometimes things are out of your control, and if something's gonna explode, then it fucking explodes. With these kind of weights, things like this can happen, and I think you've just got to take it on the chin. I've never had a bad injury in my life, so I guess maybe 11 years in, it's kind of lucky this is the only one I've had.
Yeah, so what's the recovery from that been like? And the actual injury itself, it looked fucking scary. You know what I mean? That 360 attempt, did you say it was?
Yeah, I think it was my second lift. I went 360. So yeah, it was the first time it's ever happened to me. I've torn my hamstring before, but it's always been more like distal hamstring. This was proximal, so it's like right underneath my arse cheek, and I just felt like it's like the same thing everybody says. It felt like Velcro being ripped.
Did you think it was your adductor at first?
Yeah, well, it's because there's a nerve that goes into like your gooch, basically, and I felt my gooch, and I had this weird ball pain for like 4 months. I thought I was gonna have it forever after that tear.
That's just fucking scary.
Yeah, it's fucked. But on the way down, the only reason I think my ACL and MCL stayed intact is because my knee wrap was basically kept it still. But the position I ended up in, if you pause the video at the bottom of the fall, like you just shouldn't be able to get there. You know, I can't even, my glutes are quite tight, so I can't even put my leg now on there. If I do that, that's about as far as it goes in stretching. So for this to hit my head, you know, I was in some fucked up position. Because I had a big dent in my head, and I was like, I wonder where that came from. And I watched the video, and it's the top of my ollie shoe. It's quite pointy on the Nikes, and it just like smashed me in the forehead.
Ouch.
So yeah, pretty random. But the recovery time to get back and squat, I did my first rack back squat yesterday or 2 days ago. So it's been 6 months to get back under a bar, low bar and wraps. That's literally all psychological though. I've been safety bar squatting and high bar squatting. I have no idea why, but as soon as I put wraps on and low bar, my mind just fucking kept telling me, do not go down. I don't know why, it did. The amount of times I put wraps on and tried to do a single at like 230 and I just couldn't. But then I would happily do a pause squat and a safety bar at 230. You know, it's like with his sleeves. I don't know what it was.
That makes me think of recently. Do you see the injury Blaine Sumner had when they kind of fashioned he's fashioned his own squat setup, hasn't he?
Yeah, I've seen with the safety catches and stuff. Yeah, that thing. Yeah.
And he tends to just squat over 1,000 pounds quite a lot.
Yeah.
And he goes to re-rack it or something. This is just like a hazy recollection of it. But he basically slices his hand open, I think, really, really badly. He traps it in the rack or something like that. Someone will have watched it and remember it or something. But going back to that, honestly, like he basically fell into the rack or something with 1,000 pounds. And I just think he posted something about how psychologically tough that was to get back. And you know, it is literally psychological, because he dumps the bar a couple of times because he just can't switch back on into that mode of thinking where it's just safe again. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I guess that's probably, you know, that it's safe.
Well, you can see there, them things that we've got, whatever the fuck they're called, safety straps, I don't know what they're called.
Yeah, those green things, yeah.
Spud straps, is that what they're called?
I don't know, your guess is as good as mine.
Whatever. Them fucking things there, never had a spotter in my life. You see videos of me on Instagram from like 3 years ago. I used to walk out like 320 high bar squats in a rack that's fucking designed for a 180 bar max capacity, and in wraps and stuff. This is when I was training for my first comp, and I'd squat it and just walk back in, because I've done a lot of Olympic weightlifting in my time as well, and I've just always had this thing of if I'm going to fail, I just bin the bar. And you know, it doesn't even faze me, but just having them straps there has just taken that edge off my brain, because like I say, I'm not scared of the squat. I'm scared of if my leg goes, I want the bar to go somewhere, because if you're squatting 360 kilos, I don't care who's spotting you, they ain't gonna catch the weight. You know what I mean? It's just you're gonna go to the floor. And in my case, the reason why it was a bit worse is because one leg blew, I started shifting to the right. So the spotter on the right hand side got like hit with the bar and kind of like pushed away, and the other spotter, it went away from him. So they basically just had to stand there and watch me get mauled. And I truly believe that my recovery time would have been less than half of what it is if there were straps there, because most of my recovery has been on the issues in my back that I got from the TFL tear, and the adductor issue as well. The hamstring rehab, I'm like, you don't know much about me, but I'm kind of known as like the drug guy in the UK. Like, my thing is getting people strong, but I'm also very good at the performance enhancing drug side of stuff and the recovery drugs. So when I just got on with the people I know and found out what to take, what to do, my hamstring was back to full strength in I think it was 17 days, which for a grade 3 hamstring tear is fucking crazy. It
sounds pretty fucking quick for a grade 3 tear. So what drugs did you employ?
So most people would jump on the peptide wagon and do like BPC 157, but I was told that for the severity of tear, we need to go it's called Actovegin. Don't know if you've heard of it.
No, I've not.
It's an extract of calf's blood, basically, that increases oxidization and stuff like that in the muscle directly. Stings to put it in a lot, but that is basically what I took for about 10 days until I got the tear down to about a grade 2. And then we transitioned to BPC 157 and L-cartinine, and it was also the MK2866 and MK677 SARMs.
Right, so they're MK677's growth hormone. Right?
That's the growth hormone release one, and the other one's Ostarine, that it's known as. It's good anti-inflammatory and healing of tendons and stuff like that, and good for recovery. Plus good nutrient timing around the intake of these supplements to help flush it to the area. Constant rehab, which started off at literally, it was so bad that my rehab was led in bed trying to bring my heel to as far back as I could, and I would do like 500 reps a day until maybe third day in I had full range of motion. I say third day in, I had a week of like bedbound death, can't move, and then it was like started my rehab then, because the first week was mainly my back. I couldn't move, like, you know when you just, I don't know if you've ever done your back really bad where you like lean against the wall to like move around.
I've had SI joint issues in the past, on both sides actually, but the right side was worse. I was just doing some deadlifts and I felt it go, continued with the next set, as you do, got even worse. Did some front squats, got even worse, to the point where like I could not be in any position without pain. I had to get a massage just so I could sleep. You know what I mean?
Well, that actually helped me, because my missus used to get loads of blood flow into it, and then I could actually get to bed because I just couldn't even lie in it. It was horrendous, really bad. I don't want that happening again.
So did that? Just while we're on the issue of the injury with the safety straps, I think maybe the reason why they don't have the safety straps sometimes is because you can, obviously spotters can get crushed, can get the hands crushed under the bar. I think people have lost fingers in the past. Just something that I've heard that went on in the States.
Yeah, but I think that if you take your hands outside the safety strap, then you can't trap your finger.
Well, a spotter could. Well, I don't know.
I don't know why a spotter's grabbing the bar.
Neither do I, but it's just what I've heard. It's just anecdotal.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard the story, but I think it was the lifter that trapped his hand,
right?
Because he went in the strap and on the bar, and then obviously you can get caught. But you're supposed to go around the strap. So I would just say that's lifter error. You know, it's like me unracking a barbell on my head and crushing my skull, and then they go, "Oh, we can't squat in comps anymore because this guy's fucking killed himself."
Yeah.
It's like, well, no, he's a fucking retard. So it's.
When you put it like that,
Well, I mean, to me, I'm looking at it from the point of view of if there were safety straps, I would have been able to walk home or to my car. I had to get carried to my car, and then we did a 4-hour car journey home. I couldn't get out of the car. I was stuck because I just seized up in this position. I literally just fell out of the car and kind of crawled in my house and then crawled into bed. And then for 7 days, I was thinking to myself, like, I didn't know what I'd done, because obviously I knew I'd torn my hamstring or adductor, but the back thing, I was like, I don't know what I've done. And then every time I saw the video, I was like, I'm in some fucked up position there. So I didn't know if my vertebrae was fucking somewhere in the Body Power Expo lost, or what. I was a bit stupid to bench, and I even tried to deadlift, but they gave me so much laughing gas, I was high as fuck. I was just walking around like, what's going on? And then when it started wearing off, I was like, oh, I'm really in pain. It's quite funny.
So what have you been up to? Well, you've said that you did your first rap squat the other day. What do you feel like you're coming back to, lifting wise? When do you think you'll?
I don't know. It's hard to say because I've been invited to Pro Raw, and part of me wants to do it because the 95 kilo class is absolutely perfect for me. Like I say, I walk around at 96 and 98, but I'm pretty like in tune with my nutrition. And for a smaller dude, I eat a lot of calories. I have about 800 carbs, 5,000 calories a day, every single day, because at the moment I'm trying to gain weight. And with the things that I'm taking and the training style I employ, I've gone from post-injury, I was 91, and I've gone to 97 and a half, I think I was when I did my weigh-in. And if you look at the pictures of my before and after, I've probably stayed the same body fat. So I've been very good in my body composition as to growing. So if I were to rein back a little bit, I could get to 95 with like hardly any effort. So it's like a really perfect weight class for me to lift in. But I also feel like it's a bit too soon. This injury has taken a lot more time to recover from. And kind of like what Sam was saying before to Hicksy about this 14 weeks to Pro Raw, I feel like I'd be forcing it to happen instead of just letting it happen. But then I'm like, it's the best lifters in the world. You got that Captain America motherfucker, what's he called?
I know who you mean.
Yeah, well, you know, it's fucking fake.
Is his name Bilbo Swaggins?
Yeah, Bilbo Swaggins.
That's not his real name, obviously. What's his name?
He's pretty good. Yeah, John Hack, that's it. He's lifting there, and he's like, oh, I'm going to smoke this comp with 920. I was like, I'll get 960 by then. But with this injury, I've not even been able to train. You know, I've trained deadlift. My deadlift's pretty good at the moment. My bench is just ridiculous. I've not even tried it, to be honest with you, but my bench is insane at the moment. I don't know if you've seen my strict log pressing, but I've been strict logging like 150, 160.
That's crazy.
So my pressing is like, because all I could do when I was injured was press, so I was just like, fucking getting a good press. So I know if I did do a max bench peak, like I said, I've not even trained it really. I've just been training log, but bench the other day, 200 for 2, and I'm not really benched properly in about 6 weeks. So I know if I just transitioned to bench phase that I would be... you know, hitting up PBs again, basically. Because that's how, because I think this is very underrated in powerlifting, by the way. Overhead pressing, in my opinion, bench doesn't carry over to overhead in most cases, depending on the person's like structure. But I think overhead has such a linear carryover to bench. It's absolutely insane. Like my first ever bench was 200, and all I did before that was log.
I've heard this before, mainly from. Do you know who Jack Lovett is?
Yeah, I know. Owner of Spartan.
Yeah, he's a good mate of mine. Well,
yeah, I don't know Jack that well, but I've competed at his gym since it started, and then he's transitioned into different units, and I know what it looks like now, and Jenny coaches there and stuff. So I know who he is quite well.
But he's a big proponent of overhead for bench.
Well, this is just anecdotal evidence I'm talking about. I've not really seen anything done on it, but like Hicksy, you know, presses overhead, benched for like 10 weeks and did 275 at Big Dogs, you know. It kind of showcases itself. But I have seen big benches try and press a log, and I know there's some skill acquisition and stuff like that involved, but you know, you'd still expect a decent press. And I see people struggle with like big. I don't know if you know Big James Williams. He benched 272 at Body Power. I think it was 272. No, it might have been 262 at Body Power.
Name rings a bell.
Yeah, well, he's probably one of the best benchers in the UK. Flat back, narrow grip, and about a fucking 10-second eccentric every rep. I don't know why, he just likes to do a slow eccentric, but I've coached him for about a year and a half, 2 years. I take no credit for his bench, by the way. He built that himself pretty much. Maybe added 5 kilos or something, but you know, he just was a big bencher. But when he first started log pressing, he was doing like 130 for 2s and 3s, which, you know, someone who has a flat, you know, you can understand it maybe if they were arched and wide grip and this much ROM, but when it's narrow grip, his range of motion is like fucking this as well. Like, it's crazy he presses that much. But yeah, you see him struggling on a log, you start to think to yourself, there's definitely a weird correlation between bench and overhead press that it just doesn't seem to carry over. But overhead does to, like Mark Clegg's a really good weightlifter. I don't know if you've ever heard of Mark Clegg.
I know who he is.
Yeah, his first bench he ever did was about 200 kilo close grip. Never benched in his whole training life. He just did split jerks and push press and log. Did a bit of bench once, and I think he got to like 220 in about 5 weeks.
That is crazy.
And I mean, I've seen it so many times that to me it's factual in my brain.
Yeah.
Because I've just seen it so much. I'm like, it has to be. There's so little evidence and studies on strength training. You have to go with evidence that you find and see.
Well, in one of our issues, one of the earlier ones, I think, I can't remember the guy's name now. He was one of the first. It'll come to me. He was one of the first strongman guys to have a really big beard within the UK, down south. Can you you'll know who?
Ryan England,
guy.
maybe?
No. He's into his strength and conditioning. Really into his strength and conditioning, science-based stuff.
Aaron Page?
No, he's not competing so much anymore. But he's been on the
Might know his
televised
name
shows. Oh Jesus! Why am I? Anyway, he did like he got the data from competitions and 1 rep max bench.
Yeah.
I'm struggling to remember this now because it is a long way, a long time ago. But found a correlation.
Okay.
Between overhead and bench press.
It doesn't surprise me. Like I say, it's obviously coming from a pure strongman background, and I coach 80% strongmen, 20% powerlifters at the moment, and a lot of my strongmen have bigger benches than my powerlifters, and they don't train bench. Like we do it as an accessory movement, and they will all be better benchers than the powerlifters. And I think that comes down to a lot of stuff. I think powerlifting training periodization and structure is butchered a lot by most of the coaches in the country and across the world. Like, I think people have a poor understanding of the simple questions. Like, if you ask most coaches, like, how do we get stronger? Oh, well, we lift heavy weights. And it's like, well, what happens? Like, what happens? And they don't actually know the answer to that. Or how do we grow muscle tissue? And they don't know the answer to these simple, basic grade school questions. So when they elicit these training programs and stuff, they fail to break down sessions into actual result. Like what we're going to get from this session. Like Sam Bolland said before, he did deficit deadlift, 3 sets of 8. At whatever weight it was, and then he did 3 sets of 8 Romanian deadlift snatch grip. Yeah. And I would say, well, what's the purpose of that specific session there? Is it part of something that's going somewhere? Because then it makes sense, but that on its own makes zero sense because it's not heavy enough to get like a neurological response to get stronger, but it's also not enough volume and density to get a hypertrophic response. So what is the specific goal of that session? I would call that session a transitional phase. So somewhere between a hypertrophy phase and a strength phase. And I think people fail to understand that in the strength programming, especially in powerlifting. And they focus so much on heavy benching all the time that they never improve the bench because they don't tick off all the boxes that we need to tick off basically to get stronger. I don't know if you know much about Tom Martin's style of training programming.
I know a lot of what he does.
Yeah, because I think Tom's training structure and programming is the perfect powerlifting program for like a neurological response, neural adaptions and whatnot. But I feel like he doesn't tick off the other phases. And I think a lot of people follow Tom and copy his structure. I don't know how Tom does it. I've been coached by Tom a few times for like comp peaks because I think it's perfect for a comp peak. I've never been with him year round, so I don't know if he does change other stuff as he goes on. But personally, I think he's really built a system that is the perfect powerlifting peaking program. And his weight selection and stuff that he uses is spot on, and no one else can copy what he does because it's his brain that does these numbers. But I really do think if you combine that training method with some kind of triphasic builds where we go in different phases and get different goals, aerobic, hypertrophy, whatnot, etc., do a little transitional phase so that we aren't jumping straight from one to the other, and then go into something like Tom does, I think that is how you build the perfect powerlifting athlete, basically.
I mean, I've never seen any of his programs like written out on paper from
But it's not on paper, it's on Messenger, that's why.
What I mean is I've never seen it written out in terms of from this week to that week. Well,
yeah.
I've only like loosely followed his training and gone, oh, okay, last week he did that.
It's because it's just his brain,
Yeah.
which is a great business because no one else can ever copy him. They can try, but no one can ever get in Tom's brain.
I think
it's brilliant.
I've seen him literally go up to things like linearly, but I don't know whether that's just because he's been injured. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at other times I've seen him do kind of like block periodization where he's been doing like 5s one week, and then 10s the next, then a single, then a triple, and then doing it that way. And I've seen him do that with clients as well because I've had some of his clients for nutrition and I've followed their training, and it is literally very up and down, like a random rep selection week by week. Is that along the right lines of what he actually does?
I think what Tom does is, I mean, I don't know because like I said, it's in his fucking head, but the way I see it is he'll make sure that that the client is progressing in terms of a PB on each lift, whether it be, and perhaps what he does is if he thinks they need more recovery, then he will scale the load back and add in more reps. So it might be a 8 rep max. So he might say squat 232 for 8, and you think that's a random number for 8. Squat it for 8, it's pretty easy. So then you've ticked off a 2 kilo PB because he knows you've done 230 for 8, but it was easy. So he's got in the back of his mind, I can go 235 for 8 at some other point in the future.
And he or she can go heavier next time.
Yeah. But it doesn't mean they have to do 8s every week.
Yeah.
He just goes, that's their 8 rep max, and then right now I feel like they're going to be a bit fresher because they've gone a bit lighter, so we'll do a
1 rep.
Rep, and then he just keeps, so it's not, there's no like way to follow it other than he's just making
he goes week by week, session by session.
And I guess a bit of feedback from the client, he'll start to know each individual. This person can go 3 weeks heavier than the fuck, so they need to dial back. And so I think that's how he does it, and that's how I also plan a specific peak with my clients, is very much like that.
You have to go session by session, don't you? You can't just go, right, here's your 4-week peaking phase, do that no matter what happens. Yeah.
But what I think, this is very egotistical of me, but I think I've really mastered building the perfect powerlifting like 6-month block. And I think that that's something that a lot of coaches miss, because the biggest mistake I see is hypertrophy work that isn't hypertrophy work. And they say they're in a hypertrophy phase, and they'll give people something like, I'll use that same example that Sam said, say that was a hypertrophy block, 3 sets of 8, and some coaches think that is hypertrophy. Say they were rapping as well on a back squat, it might take them 45-50 minutes to do 3 or 4 sets of 8 at 270 squat if they're a big squat, because if you lift that much weight, it's hard to recover between sets. You're probably a big guy, you're probably on gear, your aerobic capacity is probably a bit shit, so they're not really getting any hypertrophy from it.
The stimulus isn't sufficient.
Yeah, there's not. I mean, we know that hypertrophy correlates with volume and density. So, the hypertrophy phase should be 40 to 50%. And like you were saying before about your 60 seconds, 75 seconds rest, stuff like that. So, easy program, German volume training at 40% would elicit a better hypertrophic response for an athlete rather than a heavier 3 sets of 8.
Yeah.
But people don't like to give a client 40% work because they go, oh, they're probably going to think it's a bit shit. Why do they want to do that? But I look at strength training as like someone who plays piano. And basically, if you've got 5 keys, then if you practiced and trained a lot for years with just those 5 keys, you'd probably be able to play some pretty decent shit with 5 keys. But if we take a step back and go, I'm going to add 5 more keys, you then get a bit better range, more potential for where you can go with your strength. And when you look at it like that, it's a bit easier in your brain to say, right, I'm going to take a step back from playing the piano and I'm going to add myself loads more keys, because once I get all these keys, I can then start playing all this with this shit and get really good at it. And that's what hypertrophy is to me, is you need to take a step back from lifting heavy weights, even taking a phase out of lifting a barbell completely. I'm a big advocate of doing like a restoration block where we just drag sleds, do unilateral work, do rotation, anti-rotational work, and just move and become a fucking human being again, instead of this person that stands in this one spot and does a hinge and So when you structure training like that, it works.
Your methods are so well. from what I can gather from what you're saying here, so similar to Andy Smith's.
Oh, are they?
And,
right,
yeah,
okay.
and obviously, you know.
Well, I know Andy, but I've never had the chance to. He's messaged me saying he wants to come down and basically train and chat shit with me. But I think he said in the new year actually. But I've never actually. I mean, I've watched some of his stuff on Instagram and stuff, but I've never really had the chance to sit down and talk with him.
Maybe even go up to Lift Gyms, Edinburgh. Really, really good.
Yeah. It looks crazy there.
Nice place to visit as well, Edinburgh.
Oh well.
Well, it is, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's
well compared to compared to here, I can visit anywhere, and it's pretty nice. But, yeah.
Go up to Lift maybe and have a little.
Yeah, I'd like to. Well, he's actually said to me, messaged me a date. I think it was in January. It might have been March actually. Yeah, it was March. He said he's going to come around the country and meet loads of people he wants to meet and chat shit with people and learn. So I think he's already got something planned. I don't know whether he's planning on doing.
He's doing Tattooed and Strong, isn't he? The comp like 7th and 8th of March, I think. So that might be around.
Yeah, it's around then. So right, okay, that makes sense. Where's Tattooed and Strong?
It's in Manchester.
Oh, okay, so it's near. You have to drive past here, won't you, to get there?
Yes, yeah, he will. Yeah, or he'll be on the train. He'll be on the train, but yeah.
Oh, will he?
Yeah.
I suppose he's.
Speaking of around here, like a little interjection, I've got cardio to do this evening. Is the walk along the beach near? It's near? It must be near here, right?
Well, yeah, it's like a 5-minute drive.
Is it a decent walk?
I mean, it's long. It'd be windy and cold.
Oh, well, I suspected that with it being just how it is, but that's what I'm going to do.
When you get on the prom, it's like literally like you might not come out with any hair, to be honest with you.
Well, I might come out with no hair in a few fucking months anyway. The rate at which it's disappearing.
Yeah, no, the prom it's 2 minutes down the road. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a nice walk, but I see it every day, so maybe that's why.
Okay, right.
It's just like fake sand and weird sea. So yeah.
Okay. Back to powerlifting, strength training and stuff. So we're talking about how coaches kind of can get things wrong.
Yeah.
Coaches around the world, really. What do you tend to, with your clients? Like, very general question, but what do you tend to? What do your methods include?
Well, I'm very like. I like evidence. So the things we know about strength training, because most of the studies are done on untrained individuals or just kind of like random fucking people that are trained a bit. There's not much evidence on actual athletes and what happens when we do certain things with them, because the adaptations we make, we get more efficient at doing stuff, we get better at doing stuff as we get better as athletes. And so I like to look at the stuff that we know. So we know that volume is hypertrophy and density is hypertrophy. So if I've got an athlete that's a 60 kilo twig, then I'll be like, we don't have much to play with, so we need to grow. So I will just make him grow. So we will tweak his. I mean, I'm not a nutritionist, so I don't really like to get too involved in that, but I'll just make him eat a lot and then train him to grow. And then once I feel like he's at a stage where we can actually add some strength, we will do what we know makes people strong, which is lift heavy, and then we get those neural adaptions, because we all know that strength is predominantly neurological, so we need to just feed that in. Yep. And then they get strong at whatever specific skill they get. My hypertrophy work, I like to make sure is based around the skills that they want to do. So if it's strongman, they will log, they will deadlift. They'll probably safety bar squat instead of straight bar squat. I just prefer that for strongman. And bench press for a strongman would be a accessory movement. And again, if they acquire the skill of the lifts and master their mechanics and whatnot, then the rest is pretty simple. Grow muscle tissue, train heavy when it's time to get strong under the rules of the sport. It's not that hard. And that's why Tom Martin's programming works so well, is it doesn't have to be structured. It doesn't have to be something that you can put on paper and go, why is it going like this? Why is it not going like that? Because training just doesn't work like that. If somebody squats an 8 rep max, that's just a random figure that's like 2 kilos heavier than the 8 rep max, they've done something they've never done before, so they will have an adaptation response, and then the next week they go more and more and more. And whether it's a 2, an 8, a 6, whether it's a standard thing that he goes 8, 6, 4, 2, or whether it's 2, 6, 8, 12, 1, it doesn't matter, as long as it's consistent and heavy and managing the recovery. That's the kind of key thing, really. Then it's fine. But if you've got it depends on the athlete as well. If you've got someone like Sam Bollins or Hicksy, they're only going to be able to squat heavy like maybe once every 10, 14 days. Whereas someone who's squatting 150 kilo can squat 5, 6 times, 7 times a week.
Yeah.
So it's very going to depend on the person a lot as to what we do. I'm not someone who's shy of giving something that looks stupid as well. Like, it's not uncommon to see something like 15 sets of 8 on a program. If I want volume around a specific movement and growth, then we'll do that. The only thing I maybe do a little different to some people is I do like to split my assistants. Like, I'm a big fan of assistants, basically machine work or barbell work that is an accessory to the main movement. So doing it in 2 different ways. So instead of just like, for example, take a bent over row for an example. You can do like a power row, like Sam Parker. I don't know if you've seen that video of doing 270 for 5.
Are they like the what people are calling pendlay rows, but there's a lot more.
Yeah,
there's a lot
bit
more
of body language
in it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that there, Sam Parker did 270 for 5, which baffles me because I think he deadlifts about 270 for 5. But whatever. He's rowing it. He's getting a good neurological response to that row, which is going to help build strength around his deadlift, basically. So it's a great accessory movement for that. But is it the best to grow his lats?
Probably not, because the lat isn't contracting as well as it could.
Exactly. So we can break the assistance down into like one day. We might do a day that's really demanding on recovery. So it might have heavy deads and then heavy rows. And then some other kind of like cheaty lat pull down or something that we're just literally trying to just sling big weight around. Mm-hmm. And that the goal of that session is to get strong. And then if we maybe need a recovery session, we might have a speed deadlift, but we do some more like time and attention work, like chest supported dumbbell row with 2-second concentric, 2-second eccentric, 2-second squeeze, tempo, superset with, some rear delt fly or something, really, again, slow controlled tempo. So assistance work that basically varies when we're not just ticking off one box every time. We're understanding that each exercise, each movement we do elicits different responses.
It has to have a purpose.
Everything I put in a program has a purpose. I'm not just like, do some rows. I'm like, do rows, heavy, cheat, strap in as heavy as you can to get strong. And then it's like, do some rows, slow tempo, good squeeze, good contraction in the lats, make sure we're retracting scapula at the top and squeezing for a couple of seconds. That's a completely different response to slinging a 270 kilo around for 5. They're both doing something, but that's why we need to people need to be more specific with when they say do stuff, because what is it you want that movement to do? Because it can do a couple of different things, basically.
So to take away from that, really, what you need with any program you're doing, whether you're getting it off a coach or whether you're programming someone else or you're programming yourself, you have to have a very specific aim for what the session is and for what the training phase is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, people always forget the first one, the training day. They look at the phase, but then sometimes people send me phases like, is this an okay phase? Because I do a lot of work with other coaches as well. I help other coaches program. And sometimes I'll just say to them, well, what's the goal of this session here? And like, well, I don't know. And I'm like, why the fuck have you put it in there then? Like, each day should mean something. This person's coming to a gym and putting 2 hours of their life into this. They're probably thinking about it all day. They paid you good money. That session should have some goal and somewhere to go. And if it's not in there, if it doesn't need to be in there, don't put it in there just because he wants to train 5 days. Tell him he don't need to. All it's doing is hampering his recovery because you're giving him some random extra shit to fill a day. That's another thing people do wrong as well, train too much. Don't like taking a step back, especially as they get stronger, because they're used to training 5-6 days a week. When they're weaker, they get stronger, still sticking to this routine of 5 or 6 days. And like I said, someone like Sam Hicksey, I don't think you see Sam Bolland under a heavy rat back squat twice a week.
No, he said he does a lot of things on alternate weeks.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
so especially squatting and deadlifting, he'll do that on alternate weeks. Benching is the only thing he'll do twice. Yeah,
it makes sense because of the load he's using on benches. I mean, it's still great, but it's a bit behind the level of like a 400 squat, and he's probably near a 400 deadlift, isn't he? So,
yeah, and I mean, he's obviously programmed by Australian strength coach Sebastian Oreb.
Yeah,
and Hicksey is as well, and Hicksey's only training 3 days.
Yeah,
which is what we've just got from the podcast we just recorded, and it seems to be something that I'm hearing a lot through interviewing people on this podcast. The stronger guys, it's infrequent training.
Yeah. I call it a reward.
Tom Martin has said the same thing.
I say it's a reward for getting strong. You don't need to fucking do as much because you put 10 years into this shit, so you don't need to be in the gym.
Dorian Yates as well, who I know he's not a powerlifter, but who we were mentioning at the start, his HIIT style training. The whole premise behind it is the bigger and stronger a muscle gets, the more stress it elicits on itself, or I guess in our case, the more stress you elicit on your own nervous system, hence the longer you need in between.
And I don't know how true this is, but something I got told off a reliable source is that your nervous system doesn't like progress at all. It's just the same. When you were, 22 lifting or 200 back squat, it's the same now when you're 29 with a 360 back squat. So obviously, if I do a top single back then, the stress is, people will go, oh, well, it's still, like people have said to me before, well, you maybe do 90%, so it's heavy. And I'm like, well, yeah, the percentage is the same as someone else's 90%, but what happens under a 400 squat and a 200 squat is completely different.
So you can't do just the exact same training program because... Yeah.
Because you start to break. Like those Bulgarian guys, they all fucking started exploding because they just got crazy strong and they didn't ever go, we should probably start training a bit less now. They were like, no, you're going to train. And I've heard stories of people doing, I can't remember who I heard it off, I think it was Max 80 or something, saying that they would have been told, you have to clean and jerk 180 today before you go home. And they'd wait till the coach had like turned around and they'd like slam the bar and be like, yeah, done it. And then he'd be like, right, go home. But that obviously is, they're saying that training method got them really strong, but no one actually knows what the athletes did because they were like doing their own way of recovering.
I remember this video by Max Aita.
Yeah, I think it was Max, yeah.
And he was talking about that one crazy coach, I can't remember his name, the Bulgarian guy.
Is he the one who mixed that stuff in the toilet and wanted to have a goat in the fucking...
No idea.
I fucking honestly, I get high and just read and watch stuff, and it just stays in my brain forever. But anyway, there's some story about this Bulgarian coach or something. Someone got someone over, some American lifter, put this Bulgarian coach over to get him strong, and he was like, "You need to get this," and give him a list of all these drugs. And he was like, "We can't do that over here. We get tested all the time." And he's like, "Right, okay. Well, I need a goat," and he wanted to like do something like starve this goat for fucking however long and then eat it because it would give him all these hormones and stuff.
Whoa, that is insane.
And they were like, yeah, we can't do that either. And then apparently he'd mixed something in a toilet and then got a cup and was like, drink that. And they're like, no, we don't. I want you to train me. I didn't want you to feed me random
Whoa, this is crazy.
Shit. I can't remember where I watched it. It was on YouTube. Or I was tripping balls. One of the two. I'm not sure. No, it was definitely true because I've had this conversation with someone else who watched it. So yeah.
Right. Send me the YouTube video when you can.
Yeah.
I've only seen the one about how we train people. It was Chad Wesley Smith, wasn't it, who kind of who set the video up, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I can't remember. It was a long time ago. I'm talking about this like
probably not the one that you're telling me
ago.
About, but yeah, the one about his methods and how he'd gained all this information about this bloke's methods. I can't remember the guy's name. It's really annoying, but he was the guy who invented the Bulgarian system, wasn't he?
Yeah, which it's like one of the most famously quoted systems, but it's flawed in the fact that no one actually knows what happened, like what the athletes did, because there's so many stories of people doing stuff to get out of the lift because they just physically couldn't. So we don't know what the frequency was or what the intensity was, because there was stuff like they would put odd weights on the barbell and shift themselves to the left so the coach could only see the barbell with 3 reds on, but on the other side was like a red and a blue or whatever, and they'd be just weird stuff like that where they'd kind of swindle it so the coach would be like, yeah, you can go home, because I'm pretty sure back then it was like, if you don't do this training program, you're off the team, and they were like poor people who needed to be on the team, so they would just do what they were told. But yes, it's hard to base. I would say Tom Martin's style of training is probably the most used method in the whole world at the moment, because he's got a lot of clients for over a long period of time. I mean, I know he obviously doesn't have hundreds all the time, but he's been doing it for a long time. So he's
told me he has 60 now.
Yeah, but if you imagine, how long has he been doing it? Maybe 6-7 years?
Yeah, he's been coaching.
Yeah, he'll have had maybe 1,000 over the 6-7 years coming and going, because people get into this sport, give it everything, don't become world champion in 8 months and go, this is shit, I'm leaving. I see it all the time. But his method has been consistent for the whole time. That's why I love Tom Martin's method, because he hasn't really changed it over the years. It's like, it works, and we do this. And everybody he coaches is strong, and everybody he coaches gets PBs. So I would say his method's probably the best evidence of a system that really works, that's customized as well, because obviously you've got program, like everyone's run the Ed Cohen deadlift program, that I don't even think Ed Cohen wrote it, but like pretty much everyone I know is at some point in the powerlifting life gone, or strongman life gone, what's a good deadlift program on Google, and the Eddie Cohen program comes up, and everybody got really strong off that. But that's just because he made him do assistance, I believe. Made him graft a little bit and grow some tissue. But there's not much evidence out there on the Bulgarian system. And
I think the thing with the Bulgarian system was that, like, whoever it didn't break and whoever had the best genetics and the best recovery, that's who it would work for. It didn't necessarily work for everyone. Yeah. It was just the ones who were able to survive it. Yeah, but again, it was purely, if you look at it, it's like purely neural training. It's just, that's all it is. And I mean, it's specific, it does work, but if you don't transition out into these different phases, then you just become good at the things you're doing, and you become very prone to injury. As soon as you move, like you catch clean and you rotate a little bit, you haven't done that in 7 months, you've not trained that position, or you're injured, and obviously the stress on joints and stuff, it's pretty stupid to do it for more than a couple of months, I think. But people do it, and people do last. Some people lasted 5 or 6 years doing that method before they finally broke. But if you can sustain it for 5 or 6 years, you're probably going to get crazy fucking strong. Yeah. Not the best thing for your general life, though, to be fair. But let's talk about another thing that I've seen a lot on social media with regards to you. You had a premises at one point, didn't you?
MST, yeah.
Yeah. What happened with that? I know there was something to do with the council.
It was basically moved into this. I actually used to. I don't know if you've been next door to Josh's gym. But
I've not. No.
That's where that was my first unit next door, and it's a little bit bigger than this, so maybe half the size of this bigger. So it's a decent space to train people in. But for me, it was like a start, because it's cheap rent, and I'm sure you come down the corridor and stuff like that. It's not the best advertisement to get people in, is it?
No, it's a surprisingly big place.
Yeah,
but it's
not pretty. No, put it that way. Especially when you've got a £10 million invested sports centre 3 minutes down the road. It's tough competition to get people to walk through a 2-inch puddle to get to your gym in a dodgy, sore-looking corridor. You got fucking Jigsaw living in the toilets and stuff. It's not the best place, but I realise now, 5-6 years on, the people who come to a facility like this don't really give a shit about all that. But because I'd come from purely training in these commercial gyms, I had this view of I wanted it clean, I wanted it this, I wanted it that, and I kind of believed that this was just a start and I needed to move. So I moved next door for a year, and when I got more clients, more members and whatnot, I moved to another unit that was a lot nicer. It had a reception area, I had a massage room there, and toilet, showers, everything. It was just a nice unit, a little sofa area to chill out, and then the gym itself was a little bit bigger than the room through there and a bit of a better shape. So it was the perfect facility. But I got told some bad information that because I'd been accepted to run my business in there, that I could just move without reapplying for planning permission. Okay. And I didn't know anything about all these planning applications and stuff back then. I didn't even apply for planning permission there. It was the landlord just did it all for me, so I didn't even fill out the form or anything. So I moved, and about a year later I just got a letter through the door saying you've not applied for planning permission, you need to. So I applied, thinking just get accepted now. It was like an £800 planning application, so I thought they were trying to get money out of me. Then they replied in 6 months saying, you've been rejected, you need to get out. So that's when we started arguing it. It purely got rejected on the grounds that I was taking the space of an industrial business, but on this particular industrial estate there was 6 empty units. So there's empty units everywhere. It's not like there's loads of startup businesses waiting for a unit. You know what I mean? They were kicking me out for no reason, basically. So we were arguing it, and we managed to drag it out for like a year and a half. But basically, end of the day, they won. Set a court date that if I didn't get out for this certain date, I would be charged with running a business without the correct licenses, which was a breach of I'm on a suspended sentence as well, by the way, of 2 years. So that's a breach of my suspended sentence because it classes as me breaking the law. Okay. So basically, I was going to go to jail for 2 years if I didn't get out. So I had to move out. by then I'd already transitioned to mostly online business anyway, to be fair. So it wasn't like it affected my income or my life, so to speak. But losing the facility was a bit of a kick in the balls. It was a lot of hard work, a lot of long hours, a lot of building of kit, and just over time traveling around the country, because everything I bought was secondhand. I traveled everywhere buying shit, and a lot of sentimental value behind it all. But
of course, yeah.
In the end, I just moved out, and I now rent Josh's gym next door. 9 hours a week and coach face to face in there. So I'm back to the original unit that I got.
Okay.
So if I'd never moved, I would have been happily able to stay there. But like I said, I saw myself in this really nice, because basically compare myself to Jack. His facility is lovely. It's strength and conditioning, but it's like got that, nice set. It's clean.
Yeah, you can go in. It is perfectly clean, like you say.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And it has... obviously, all the equipment's great. It's new. It also has the sauna upstairs, the chill-out room upstairs. Yeah. So it has other...
It's like the blend of commercial and the nitty-gritty strength and conditioning, and that's what I love. And if I had a facility... I imagine Lift Gym's pretty...
Lift Gym is exactly
similar.
like that.
Yeah, that's how I imagine it. So, that was my dream facility, but unless I had a large investment, you can't just create that like that. No. So I was slowly building it, and I was getting to the point where it was starting to look how I wanted it to, and then we had to leave. So it was a bit of a ball ache.
That's what Jack did, though. He slowly built it. He didn't have Spartan as it is now. I think this is Spartan 5.0. He's just brought out. Yeah. So this is the 5th incarnation of it.
Because he used to be across the car park, didn't he, in another unit.
I think it was so, yeah. I was only in the North East for 2 years, so I don't really know.
Because I remember doing a comp there. We did the comp there 2 years in a row, because they used to host Northern England Strongest Man under 90 there.
Yeah.
And I drove, and I turned into the estate, and I drive to this building. And then I'd been there a couple of times to train the events as well. And I turned and I drive to the building. I turned and drive to the building. And I went to the 105 qualifier a couple of years later, and I turned, went to this building, and I was like, oh, it's like a different business. I turned behind me, it was behind me.
Did you turn left when it had changed?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that was the most previous one he had.
Yeah. And I was just like, it's there. So, and then it was like a much bigger building, and it had the massive AstroTurf on the side. It's absolutely class. I love that. That's like if I could like clip my fingers and have anything in the world, I would pick a facility like that around here. Yeah. Because I think I think what he's done is just amazing.
It's what you should try to... I think any gym opening now, that's what needs to be strived towards, because you're not going to open a spit and sawdust gym now and compete with the likes of all these big chain gyms. They'll just eat you up. Do you know what I mean? You need to have something that makes people want to stay there.
The facility next door, Josh does really well, I do really well from it. It works, but I think we've got away with it because in the area me and Josh are probably the two best personal trainers. I mean, I don't really call myself a personal trainer, but we're well known. We've got a good reputation, a good name. A lot of the PTs around the area come in my class, and I coach them on weightlifting and stuff like that. So, we've earned a bit of respect over the years because we've done it for a long time. So I think that's kind of how we work. But I imagine if I was starting out from complete scratch...
And if it was a gym that you were starting and not necessarily just a space to train people, it's different,
isn't
it?
Yeah. Like you say, if you started to spit... Well, around here, the amount of bodybuilding gyms that start up and go, I could probably name like 8 over the last 3 or 4 years. They just kit out with machines, and you pay $5 and there's this fucking miserable fucker on the desk. It's just not going to work because they can pay the same price at DW, not get a miserable fucker, get 10 times the kit, have a sauna and a swim, and you just don't do it. You have to either have good coaching skills and train people, or a lot of money to open the perfect facility, which most people never get unless you're Andy, a little fucker. Bastard. His Lift Gym and his first class flights.
Yeah, I mean, he did a lot of graft as well in his own studio.
Yeah, I'm only messing. I
know you are. I'm just. I just thought I would hypothetically defend him because just to kind of like go through his story. He grafted hard.
Yeah, because I remember seeing his little studio.
Yeah. Well, he went from Virgin Active. When Virgin Active was Virgin Active, he was PT in there. Then he went to the studio. and then he went to lift, so he's kind of had like 3 phases.
Yeah, what's his dog called again? Because that's the reason why I followed him.
Titan,
that's it. Yeah, I followed him because I've seen his dog, and I was like, he's got Powerlifter in his name, he's got a dog, follow. And that is like the key to get me to follow you, is post pictures of your dog. Especially if it's a Frenchie or a pug, she'll be straight on you. So yeah. So
do you foresee yourself expanding the thing next door?
No, that's purely Josh's. And
I mean, how do I say it? Having another unit in the future.
No. Without like delving too much into it, I'm doing so well online.
Okay.
Like basically, I'm making more money than I ever dreamt I would ever make in my entire life. I'd never expected to be very comfortable, and my hours of work they're a lot, but they're very manageable because I can do it in my own time, and I like to work late at night.
Yeah.
So I have my quality of life. I'm just so grateful to be where I am, and I try to always remind myself to not be too like take it for granted and whatnot, because I didn't think it was possible to be in this situation as an online coach. So for me to be able to practically train full time, I say that in the sense of I'm free within the hours of I wake up, eat, go train as long as I want. Yep. When I come home, I can then do my work. So to me, that's like full time, because
that's financial freedom too, isn't it?
Yeah, because I don't. There are the odd days where I have to get up and work before I train, but it's me at a PC doing what I love to do, program people and speak to people. So it's not even like, you know what I mean? I'm just very lucky to be there. And I would never open the gym again because of the stress, the hours, the people. I know it sounds stupid, but constantly seeing people every day and talking to people every day. How you doing? How's your day been? No. And then the next, how you doing? How's your day been? Even if they're the greatest people in the world that you love, you just get sick of talking to people.
Drain you.
Yeah, and I go home and I'll be sat there and my missus is trying to talk. I'm just like, don't fucking speak to me, because I've had this conversation of how's your day been like 70 times, and I don't want to have it again. Since the gym's closed, 9 hours through there coaching, I walk in and I see everybody at once. We have the same convo but once, so I'm enthusiastic about it. I enjoy it. I'm coaching for 2.5 hours and then I'm fucking out. And when I'm training, it's the perfect split, because this, you obviously can't see it if you're listening, but this unit's here and literally next door is where I coach. So when I'm training, I lock that door and no one can bother me apart from the other people in the gym that are training. Before, when I was training at my old gym, it'd be like halfway through I've had it before, I'm like wrapping my knees for a max squat. Oh, Shane, can you just help me with this? And I'm like, fucking like, no, like I'm about to squat, but you can't obviously say that, so you've got to be like, oh yeah, okay, snap out of your zone and start coaching for 5 seconds. Then it's like, right, wrap me other knee, my fucking legs numb. Happens so often, and I used to feel like having my own gym should be a positive towards my training, and it often felt like a negative because I couldn't be in the zone. Like the amount of times like I'd be doing a big volume session with low rest and fucking some guy'd walk in and start talking about joining. And I'm like, I don't want you to join. Like, go away.
I've seen it all kind of happen to other people before. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I know what you mean. I totally know what you mean.
And what I meant by that guy not joining, by the way, is I felt like I was a bit rude there. But just someone who clearly is not going to join is what I mean.
Yeah.
They're just they're wasting your time. Yeah. But they've walked in now, so they feel like they've got
the worst possible time for you.
Yeah, but they feel like they've got to pretend they're going to join.
Yeah.
And I know they're not, so I'm quite a blunt person anyway, as you may have noticed. That I just say, look, are you going to join or not? Because if you're not, I'm going to go finish my sets. And they go, well, I'll think about it. And I'm like, right, you know, so go away. So yeah, it become very stressful. And I love this split of training here, because training is my life, literally. So when training goes good, I'm happy. When training's going bad, I'm just not in a good place. And my missus notices it, because she'd be like, oh, is that a shit session? Fucking leave him alone for a bit. If you have a good session, I come home, I'm buzzing. And I think a lot of people are in that mental health zone with the training where, you know, it needs to go good. And that's why I put so much into it, because for whatever reason, I feel like if you were put on the planet for a fucking purpose, I feel like I was meant to lift shit for whatever reason that is. It just clicks with me. I love it. And I've never got bored of it. I've never stopped learning stuff. And it's not just powerlifting. I love lift. That's why I believe I'm the best all-round 90 kilo athlete on the planet. No one can snatch 140, clean and jerk 170, 180. Deadlift. I've deadlifted 370 in a suit, and I've deadlifted 330 raw in powerlifting standards in the gym, obviously, not in the comp. And then I've squatted 360, bench 220, logged 170 at 90 kilos. I've done all these different things. I've super yoked 400 kilo in under 10 seconds over 20 meters, which is like open weight standard. Just because I don't get bored of anything, and I see something and I'm like, I want to do that. I don't ever go, oh, I'm a powerlifter, I'm too immobile to snatch. Yeah, at one point I was like, oh, I really want to snatch, so I'll go and put the years work in to snatch and then progress with it. And I just think it's just beautiful. I fucking love it. It's the best thing in the world. And that's why I love training people, because in that room I've got weightlifters, powerlifters, strongmen, and I get to coach all three at once, and it's just fucking class.
Yeah, you are multifaceted. I think that probably helps in your coaching too, and that you can do more than one thing. And
people miss stuff because like you can apply bits from everywhere to everything. Like you can apply bits of powerlifting to weightlifting. Like I took a weightlifter for a low bar squat cycle, and they got a big clean and jerk PB from it because they'd built strength through posterior chain and legs. Just because biomechanically they're a bit shit at high bar.
Right.
But because they're a weightlifter, they squat high bar. But they're struggling to build strength in a position that's inefficient for them.
It's not suited for them.
Yeah, so they put them low bar, whereas most weightlifting coaches would be like, well, just keep squatting high bar. It's just what we do.
Thought outside the box there.
Yeah. But really, it's not outside the box. It's just I've not boxed myself in.
Yeah.
There is no box. You know what I mean? Because it's like all sports, like the triple extension of weightlifting carries over to strongman loading events so well.
Yeah.
So not that I think you should teach strongmen how to do triple extension and do a clean and stuff, but a simple power clean, we don't need to do a full clean or a snatch, but a power clean is a great skill to have as a strongman.
Yeah.
And then once you understand how to apply force to a barbell for your hips instead of your arms, you can then, when I say load this barrel with triple extension, it just, boom, happens. Whereas before, people end up trying to just like thinking about rolling it up the body instead of getting a straight bar path up in front of the body. They just all transition to each other really well. And that's why a lot of people I coach in there do all three now anyway, because they're just kind of like, oh, can I try weightlifting for a bit? Yeah, go in my weightlifting class group. Trains with them, they learn how to snatch a clean and jerk. Right, I'm going to go back to strongman now. I feel like I've got bored of that. Right, okay, back to strongman, or suddenly they're getting log PBs because they've learned to split jerk and they've applied the vertical torso leg drive to a log. And people really underestimate doing that, like just transitioning between.
So they're keeping fresh mentally. They're not getting bored, and they're also they're doing like a phasic structure to the training, which is actually helping it.
Yeah, they don't even know. They don't even know they've done it, but they've accidentally done like a power and skill acquisition phase of overhead strength. Technically, if you want to call it that, but they've just done clean and jerk. They've learnt clean and jerk. But you could call that a sciencey thing and say you've built power and you've acquired the skill of dipping with the vertical torso and applying vertical bar path, catching the weight. Then they go on a log and they've been drilling this with an empty bar for 6 weeks. They've already logged for 6 months before, so they know how to do it. They apply those skills and suddenly they're like, oh, I've got 10 kilo log PB, I don't know why. I'm fucking well strong. And it's like, yeah. Then I just go, yeah, you're well strong. But then in my mind, I'm like, this is amazing. I fucking love this training shit. It's great.
Yeah, it definitely seems like you found yourself through trial and error, almost, and through things going wrong, really. Yeah. Your correct niche of where you actually want to be. Yeah. And I think the fact, I think not a lot of people can do that, or not a lot of people realise that that's helping them. But I think what you've done now, or where you seem to be now, it's my first time meeting you, so I don't really know, but it seems like you're in a better place now, having gone through the trial and error of things not going perfectly.
Yeah. Like, for me, even like AXA and getting sacked and stuff, it's all been, like, I don't know why, it's just my brain works this way, is I never get, like, upset or down about anything.
Always turn a negative into a positive.
When I got sacked from AXA, I remember just telling myself, well, I guess I'm going somewhere else now. And then that was it. It was done in my brain. I wasn't like dwelling on it. I wasn't anxious about it. I wasn't like hiding my face. I was in the papers and stuff, so everyone knew it. I wasn't hiding my face. I just was like straight around town and like I was doing. Used to be a bit of a sesh head, so stopped all that now. So I think that's another attribute to why I'm stronger, I think, staying at the weekend. But yeah, I was just straight out, laughed about it, done. Didn't dwell on it, and then just accepted the next path of wherever the hell I was being taken, and it just happened to be this way. And like I say, I feel as though I even told the judge this when I was in court, and it didn't go down very well, because he was like, "Would you do it again?" And I was like, "Well, if I was back in time and I knew where I would be now, yeah, I'd do it again." And then he was like, "You're not supposed to say that." I was like, "Well, it's fucking true." And I was like, I would do it again, because then I get sacked and I'd open a gym. It's been great.
I wonder why I asked you why you would do it again. Surely that's...
Well, it's supposed to be like it's supposed to
see whether
your
you're
character,
showing remorse. Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, just, the thing is, though, it was like, I can't really say out, because if that's where you are now, he's like, fair enough. But I was like, yeah, I'm sorry. So it's like, don't fucking say that. I was like, sorry, mate. But yeah, it's true. I think people often do get themselves in that weird mindset. Like when they get injured and stuff, like me and Josh always say, injury is opportunity. Like I said, my pressing's going really well. I got my hamstring fucked up, did my rehab. It took a bit longer than I thought, but I just concentrated on pressing. And then, like I said, injury is opportunity. Don't look at it as, oh, my fucking career's over, I can't do this. It's like, well, there's a guy who trains here as well. You won't really have heard of him, I don't think. He's called Paddy, but he's like one of the strongest guys in the country. He's got a bit of a bad back, so he's not, like, about 7 or 8 years ago, I think it was, when he was at his peak, he was like, did like a 200 for 2 push press in the gym, and he was like logging like 180, 185. He used to train with Hicksy. Well, he still trains with Hicksy, but they were like logging together every Sunday, and they would log similar numbers, and they were both progressing at the same rate, and it was like race to 200 and stuff. So I really think Paddy could have...
is he Paddy O... Is his name
Paddy McMahon, he's called.
Paddy McMahon, okay. It's
I think you're O something, aren't you?
Yeah, O'Dwyer or something?
Par O'Dwyer, yeah. No,
is he from
Irish
Ireland
guy.
or something?
Yeah.
All right, okay, never mind then. Is he only...
Yeah, so I mean, you won't have heard of him because he's not competed for so long, because his back's been fucked for like 5 years, and like he's in the gym now and he's still grafting like 220 for 3x3 deadlifts, even though he's done 320 3x3 before. He's still 5 years on, still rehabbing, still trying to get back to where he was. And he says something that sits in my mind as well, that is, if I had one bicep left that I could train, I would have the strongest right arm bicep curl in the world. And I just think to myself, that is exactly how my mind works. Like, he doesn't ever get upset or down or pissed off. I mean, he makes the odd trip to Asda to fucking drown his sorrows in crisps, but then the next day he's straight back on it, and he's still like it now. And it's been such a long journey, and he's so inspirational to me, someone like that, because no one knows he's doing that shit. He don't post it on social media. He doesn't give a fuck about Instagram. He just comes in, does his work, and he's trying to get back to where he was. And he never decides to throw in the towel. And I've seen people throw in the towel for such less than that. And he's always learning, and he's probably one of the cleverest blokes you'll speak to about training. But he doesn't do anything in it. He's a security guard. But because he's trying to fix himself so much, he's learned so much about anatomy and rehab and training principles and programming. He's absolutely amazing.
He's taken growth from it in other areas.
Yeah, he's brilliant. I don't think he realises he's this good, but he's absolutely class. And everyone here says it. They love training with Paddy, inspirational, clever, and like I say, he's never dwelled upon that injury. So that's why I would never, when my hamstring was hurt, I'm just like, straight away, I need to be Paddy. I need to be fucking, straight on it. And I think if people took that mindset a little more, they would take themselves a lot further, because the amount of people I've coached that have got like a minor injury where they can't squat, and they see it as the end of the world, and they're just like, I'm cancelling my coaching and this and that, and then 6 months down the line, oh, hey Shane, I'm better now, can I get back on with you? And I'm like, fucking hell, like, we've got to start from complete scratch. You could have had a 200 kilo fucking bench press by now or something, you know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know if I was going on a tangent then. I told you I could just run on for complete shit.
But I think what you've said there about that mindset, I think that's a really good lesson for people to take away, and I think it's also probably a good way to wrap this one up. Just on just for people to take away that mindset, the mindset that you have on really everything that you've described through your story and through how you approach lifting and stuff, of just seeing the positives in everything, not being boxed in, not just being confined to a box.
Yeah, the Matrix, there is no spoon.
Exactly.
There's no box.
Just thinking your way through everything. So just remind us of what you're shooting for. If it's not pro raw, what do you think?
If it's not pro raw, I will probably stick to strongman for a little while, just because I really want the log world record.
Okay, and what's
under
that?
90, because I've done
What
it.
would that be?
167. It got set out about a couple of weeks ago. Rob Ward beat
Rob
the
Ward,
old
yeah, I
one,
reposted that one.
Yeah, because I've done the log world record in the gym 3 years ago. 170 I did in the gym at 90.
Right.
And I did the log world record under 80 in the gym, but not in comp. And I just feel like it's something that I need to tick off at some point. But I will sack the log off if I decide to do pro raw. I'm really mixed emotions at the moment. I'm pretty much basing it on my next couple of wrapped squat sessions, how things feel. If I feel as though I'm going to force it and I'm going to just re-injure myself, I won't get sucked into it and I'll back off. But I can't tell you right now, because yesterday was really good, but it was only 280, so it's hard to say what will happen when you put a 350 or something on.
I think it would be great to see either of those things. From my perspective, probably nicer to see you at Pro Raw, because I always find it quite exciting when the Brits go out there and and compete at these things. It was nice to watch Hicksy and a few other people in the past, when they competed.
That's the problem with Pro Raw as well, is that you forget, is it's not just a quick trip for a comp. It's like a lot of money, time, effort. Mrs. probably going to come with me. So to commit to that, I would need to know that it's going to be a 100% effort and not like a, if I went to Pro Raw and did that to my hamstring again, like, I'm fucked. So I wouldn't even risk it if I thought it was something that could happen. But we'll see how the next couple of sessions go, because that is my main goal. I want that one. The log one is kind of like something I feel like I can tick off whenever, without sounding too cocky. But the Pro Raws, like, the competition is not just like a good total, but the people who are in it at the night, it's like the most stacked 95.
It's so prestigious.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. So I would just want to be in there, but I don't want to go there and be like running at 90% and just there for the sake of it because it's on that date. I'm not in a rush. I don't mind waiting until the next one. If that's what it's got to be, that's what it's got to be. I don't want to force it.
I definitely feel you on that one, because I, for the first time, got my Pro Raw invite the other day, and you know what? Like, with the new coach I'm using, we've planned the year, and for me it's just to get my knees better, my quads less, to just pull less on my knees and
like
just
tendinitis shit, is it good?
Yeah, and it's going to be like a long rehab process, because I've trained through the problem for a long time. But I feel that we're on the right track, and I just couldn't commit to March. I couldn't commit to March financially anyway. But
I mean, there's the financial thing as well. I've just got that 10 grand fine, so that's a bit of a kick in the balls. But as well, it's like you say, it's not like it's a trip down the road and do a comp. Because if it was, I would probably go running at 90%, but and just enjoy the experience. But to commit,
you want to be effective. You want to be consequential at that comp. Do you know
I just want to go away from it and go, I'm happy with what I did. Whether it's 10th place or first place, if I popped up good numbers for me, I'd be like, I'm happy. But to go there and be like, oh, my hamstring wasn't recovered, and I don't want to be that guy who's like,
exactly the same as Hicksy said before. You don't want to be the guy who afterwards is able to give loads of reasons that he knew anyway that he wasn't going to do well.
Exactly. And me and Hicks are very, probably because I trained with him for 10 years, me and Hicks' mindset on comps, we're very like that. We play the long game. We know we've been doing this for 11 years and I want to do it for 11 more. So for me, I don't ever want that to happen to my leg again, because that could have been a career ending injury.
Yeah, it could have been.
And kind of like what Hicksy was saying about, he wants to make sure his comp his job is secure because he's not got long life in it. My coaching and online coaching is based upon my social media exposure, and it's kind of a bad thing that you get trapped into if I need to post stuff all the time to keep getting clients and keep my job.
You don't want to be out of the sport for so long that you become
just irrelevant, forgotten person. Who's this guy? So that's another thing that I need to make sure of. So we'll see. We'll just see what happens.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing it anyway, and like I say, in one way, I hope that you're well enough to do Pro Raw, and I look forward to seeing it if you do it. I look forward to watching the live stream.
Perfect. Thank you for having me on, by the way. It's appreciated.
No problem at all.
I know you don't really know me, and I know some people like me, some people hate me. I'm very much in the middle. So
well, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure meeting you for the first time too, and having this conversation.
Yeah,
and,
cool.
And I'm sure a lot of people can get a lot from this podcast, whether it's the mindset stuff that you've made apparent, the way you think about things, or whether it's just been literally training info, because I think there's a lot here too. And yeah, I look forward to keeping up with your journey, mate. So
yeah,
thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, mate. It was good. Enjoyed it.